This is a new day to try to get right. This is a new day to get on track. Yeah, that's life in football. This is a new day to live your life. This is a new day to try to get right. This is a new day to get on track. Yeah, that's life in football. It's life in football. We are life in football.
Welcome to the Life in Football Podcast, baby. I'm your host, Mike Feed.
And this your coach, Colin Moore. You know we loving life and enjoying football.
If you want some great experience and some great behind information, behind the scenes, of the football world and college football, you always need to know what's going on, especially with the players, and that's the player development. We have Mr. Edward Jones with KU, Kansas University, the Jayhawks. He's on today's podcast, and this is what I love about the game of football, because everybody always see the head coach, like, let's just say, for instance, Les Miles, he's the head coach at Kansas. Now, yeah, he does a lot of the front things and he's the front man, but the players are the most important part, and then what they got going on in day-to-day life and other things they may have going on for a school and other information that's very valuable and that's going to help them be successful. And that's what we have on today, Mr. Edward Jones. He's done that at Houston, which is his alma mater, and he represents coming straight out of Kansas City, baby. And now he's over there with Kansas, the Jayhawks, and we're going to get some great information. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let C-Mo bring him on.
How you doing, Mr. Jones?
Doing well. Excited to be here with you all and excited to share my role with the program with everyone.
And we definitely appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jones. So, just like you was just saying, first I really want to know, when did you know in high school or college that you want to do this type of sharing your love for players, as in when they leave college, you giving them all the information they need for after they playing days? Like, how did you know you want to be a part of something like that?
So for me, it started really, really early in life. My dad was a coach. He coached my brother. My family's a basketball family, and I think me and my younger brother played football. But my dad coached my older brother playing basketball. He coached my younger sister, her basketball teams, and just seeing him pouring into people's lives, I was pretty much like his assistant coach per se. But that was that's kind of where it started, and then from there, being a player. Unfortunately, I wasn't as gifted athletically as my brothers and sisters, so I took the leadership role. In high school, I had to know everywhere. The only way I got on the field was I knew every single place to be and what the office was trying to do and what we were trying to do. And in that role, I kind of helped my teammates, especially younger guys that were on the field, giving them confidence and, hey, man, this is why you need to be here. This is what you need to do, and just connect with my teammates. And then went through college. I didn't play college football because, once again, I wasn't athletically inclined. I could have worked a little harder, too, so some of that's on me. But I had, friends that were on the football team I was close with, and just seeing them and, like how they were trying to express or find purpose in who they are off the field, just kind of just all like in a melting pot of experiences, just kind of grew in me and now grows out of me.
So you was built from day one, really?
From day one. I would say that my decline in athletic skill prepared me for this really early.
Now, Coach, well, I call you Coach because pretty much if I was there, that's what I'd be calling you as well. Mm-hmm. Coach, so how did you feel when Les actually called you, or when the process got set up and they wanted you to come to Kansas, leaving Houston? Because, Houston a good city, too. Correct, so correct. How was that? How did that go?
So I'm from Houston, been in Houston my entire life. Both my parents went to the University of Houston, so I was kind of Cougar through and through. And so, unfortunately, we were let go that season. And I just got to thank the good Lord, like, man, God looked out for me, because 10 minutes before we were going to get fired, the University of Kansas, I got this number. Well, somebody had let me go back. So I kind of heard through the grapevine that we were going to get fired. After our bowl game, we lost to Army. And my wife is actually from Kansas City, Missouri. And so we were up here in this area on New Year's for a wedding. And I had planned to stop through. I had stopped at Kansas State to kind of drop off some stuff I did. I met one coach, and we planned to stop at Kansas, but due to the wedding, we didn't have enough time to stop at the university. And when we got back to Houston, my wife was like, hey, you know, if it's in God's plans, he's going to work it out. You'll be all right. So we get back to Houston, and my director of ops is like, hey, did you get a call from Kansas? And I'm like, wait, how does he know I didn't tell him I was going to Kansas. But he said, hey, somebody reached out and asked me if I wanted to do something. And I said, I'm not the guy, but the guy that you want is on our staff. And so he gave me this guy's number, and I'm kind of like, okay, I've got numbers before, you know, we'll see if he calls or not. And so the next day we were about to get fired, and I get a call, a 785 number with this area code of Lawrence, Kansas, that says, hey, is this Ed Jones? I said, yes. They say, this is it's someone on staff here. We heard you're the guy for the job. And I'm like, oh, absolutely. Yes, that's me. And so it was crazy. That was a Thursday. I had an interview with Coach Miles on Tuesday, which kind of, when he walked in the room, I kind of got like, I was like, wow, like, you know, just like,
Yeah.
I had to like, I was like, that's Les Miles. And thankfully he went to the restroom when we started, because he had a whole bunch of water bottles. He's hydrating. And I was like, and kind of gave me time. Okay, that's Les Miles, but you're here for an interview. You got to get a job. And so I interviewed with him on Tuesday. I got the job on Wednesday, drove up to Lawrence that Sunday. So it was just my mind, like God blew my mind in that. And that's pretty much a week, but just the aspect of like sitting there in front of Coach Miles and having an interview, it just showed, like, to me, it was, even if I didn't get the job, it kind of just showed me that the hard work has been paying off, because I'm sitting in front of a Hall of Fame coach who's asking me, who's, you know, interviewing me to be on his staff. So that was a fun experience.
Right.
Mr. Jones, now as a player development operations personnel, and seeing that your job is pretty much directly with players and, you know, the goals of the coach, what are some of your ideal goals as a player development leader?
The big thing, our program is called Beyond the Field, and it's a program I created at Houston because I didn't want to just be I had a marketing minor in school, and we always talk about ourselves, always be selling, sell yourself. And I didn't want to just be, oh, that's just our player development guy. I wanted to be a guy who, when recruits came on campus, hey, we got a program for you. And so in the Beyond the Field program, the purpose is finding generational impact. And I know that's broad, but it allows for a lot of customization and a lot of, for lack of a better word, genuine goals for each one of our guys. We want to absolutely help them create generational impact. And we do it through three ways: personal wellness, community impact, and career development. And so now, like you said, the perfect goals for me would be these guys to be engaged with themselves, finding out who they are, becoming a better person of them, being engaged with this community while they're here, and then engaging with their community when they go back home, if they go back home afterwards, or wherever happens to them once they graduate here, and then engaging in their career aspirations, career passions, and getting career placement. And so I believe that if they do those three things, they're able to impact thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. And so we want to create a ripple effect through generations where people say, hey, because this, you know, person went to Kansas, they have allowed or afforded or created this many opportunities for so many other people.
I love everything you just spoke on, because that, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing for us. Like, okay, getting everything in order as a player and making sure your objective when you arrive and when you leave, make sure everything's for us kind of lined up in a way. Okay, when you arrive, your goal is to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave, if you don't have a chance at pro ball, let's make sure you have an opportunity in the working world. And if you got a job of being a CEO, boom, here go your options too. So
Correct.
that's why I love it so much, because it gives the breakdown, and you as a leader, you making sure those things happen. Now I want to know, for me, because me and Simo, we both played college ball,
Mm-hmm.
and we was at a time like player development wasn't necessarily a big thing. So, in your eyes, why should every program, which every program pretty much does have it now, but I know some of the smaller schools don't have it.
Mhm.
Why is this a necessary thing for player development in every school or university?
I think at this, number one, the big reason is for me, there's so much. We talked to our guys about transferable skills. There's so much that players learn, and even when I played in my short career, that you learn from football. So they learn critical thinking skills. Like we tell guys all the time, you think literally on the fly. If I'm a safety and there's trips and they motion back to doubles, I'm already thinking about 3 route combinations that may come immediately. And imagine that in the workplace. Okay, so-and-so said they were going to do this. They switched to this. Okay, cool. This is how we'll respond. And so number one reason is there's a magnitude of skills that are created by playing football that can enhance people's or players' lives when they're done playing ball. I think number two is just the importance of, we spend a lot more time with our players probably than when you guys played. I don't know when you played, but they're here a lot. They're here in the summer. They're here. I mean, they're here a lot. And that's fine because they're getting better, but it's, we don't want to, we have more opportunities to enhance them as people. Number two, it helps them figure out who they are. There's so many stories of, unfortunately, and that's kind of what got me rolling in this. So many stories of guys that went to these universities and created all this fortune and all this for universities, where universities get not only athletic money, but they get more students, more a good football team brings prestige to different aspects of programming on campus, more exposure to your, English department, more exposure to your, science department, whatever it may be. And I just think that if our players are going to do that, we need to give them the exposure also. And then the last piece with this generation, Generation Z, they want to know what all they can get out of their experiences. And I believe that having player development, we're able to tell them, hey, you're going to be able to play and do this. And for me, that's just something that I'm passionate about. And I'm also passionate about most of the college football players now and are Black young men, and giving those opportunities to create those to where it's like, yeah, you play. I love football. You play football. That's your goal. But football can help you get to this or help you see these other things in life. And so that's another reason for me personally.
Now, Coach, you got me wanting to know. I got to get one more piece from that story. So when you already heard coming down the pipeline that they was gonna let y'all go. Now,
yes.
What made you out of I know you said your wife from Kansas, so maybe that was the main factor, but what made you know that you want to try Kansas State and Kansas? Like, how did that because you could have tried anywhere riding through. You could have tried anywhere in the world, but
right.
What made you pick them? And then it's funny how God lined it all up to where they was calling you and you ain't even get to stop by them.
Right. So the big thing was, so when I got word that we were probably going to get fired, I sent a letter to every single new head coach in a city that I wouldn't mind living in. Because part of it is I'm from Houston, and, I kind of I didn't want to fully miss the big city.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote to every single one. The other piece about Kansas, I have, for some reason, and more now I see it's this guy working, I know a lot of people who played football here, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The running backs coach at Arizona, AJ Stewart, me and him are good friends. I know Adrian Mays, he played here. There's other people I know that coached here, like people at the University of Houston that coached here before. And so I've been hearing from people that Kansas is a nice place, that we can get this thing going. I had one coach who literally told me, I worked with him at the University of Houston my second year there. He's worked in NFL. He's worked at Texas. He's worked at all these places. His wife told my wife that the best experience she had was when they worked at Kansas. And so I had been hearing about Kansas all these years while I was at Houston. And I was like, you know what? It's 45 minutes away from where my wife is, is from. So it made sense to kind of just try it. And I
last question for you is, like, when you get to see these players leave, or from every stop you've been at, and from long as you've been helping people, because I know you've been helping people longer than you even probably initially had the job. So what has been the best experience when these guys come back and they tell you, Coach, man, I'm glad you helped me see that, yes, you want a ball on the field, but also you need to be working on something you're going to be outside of football, because it's going to be outside of football, but your outside of football don't actually have to be outside of. You can get a job working in. You can get a job like mine. You can get a job doing this, that, or the third. But, like, how does that feel?
It's a great feeling when those guys realize it, because they come in and they're 18 years old and all they're thinking about is the NFL, and that's fine. I'm not going to be one to shoot down players' dreams, but when you get with them, like seeing these guys, like one of my guys is like working. I think two of the coolest moments I had in this role, we played in a bowl game, the Fort Worth Bowl, and I forgot who the sponsor was, but one of our former running backs worked for the sponsor of the bowl game. And so he came and we got to talk about his job and how, what he learned in football is helping him. And I was able to tell him, man, we're proud of you, man. Like, you're a great example, man. Like, tell these guys. It was awesome to see, because we got to see him. And it was a really good, I think it was, I don't know if it was aerospace engineering or something like that, but it was a really good job. The second story was, there was a young man when I was at Houston who had and when guys have incredible personalities, great smiles, and I'm like, hey, the community needs to see that. The community needs to see, you need to get in the community. And this guy would never, ever do anything. Like, I was just like, but I stayed on him. Hey, man, you need to be in the community. And so leaving Houston to Lawrence, Kansas is a 12-hour drive. And so I was able to call like every player on the team, like, hey guys, I was able to text him. We weren't able to talk to him because we kind of got let go that day. And so I was talking to him on the road. He's like, Coach, man, I always watch what you did in the community, and I want to get in the community. And, he's hitting me up, and like a year later, he created like a community, a nonprofit to help the community surrounding the university. And it's like those stories there where it just reminds you, because there's days where it's tough. You're like, man, these kids ain't listening to me, but
Right.
Those days where you get to see those seeds actually grow, and guys tell people like, hey, we need to do this. Like, we had a great moment I had here at Kansas. We were talking about, we have a career development committee, and our guys were like, hey, Coach, I've been really big talking to them about LinkedIn and how LinkedIn has really helped me in my career. And they were like, Coach, our teammates need to understand LinkedIn. They need more LinkedIn. We need more LinkedIn's, Coach. We got to get these guys on it. Like, those moments are the moments that it's like, all right, they're getting it. So I enjoy those.
Coach, in closing, I'm going to open up the floor to you, because it's very important for everybody who enjoys the game of football, from parents to other staff at the school, to know the importance of the player growth and the player development. You, as the director of player development, and with the information that you input in the Beyond the Field program, give us some information in closing that can be helpful to anyone out there who may be inspired to do more in their field.
I think in closing, before I even start this, thank y'all so much for reaching out to me. I'm so glad we were able to finally make it happen. I think the biggest thing is to get those players to even think greater of themselves. We, in our positions, have to open up our minds and what we can impact them. So, like, for me, I'm like, all right, I don't want to I'm really big on, like, I think somebody quoted somebody said compliments or success can be the barrier to greatness. So looking at what you do and say, oh man, I'm having success, these guys are doing this, but it's like, I want to think bigger. And so my encouragement to anyone is to have massive plans about the players and what you want to see them do. Because I always had, when I taught for 6 years, a high school student, I would tell as a high school teacher, I would tell my students, shoot for the moon and you'll land on the stars. And so for those who are trying to help with the player growth, I say it's a passion, it's a burden. I see it more as a burden. Keep pushing it. If it's high school coaches listening to this, middle school coaches listening to this, you may not have the resources that I have, but there's resources. There's alumni that have played there that have jobs. There's the county has different resources. Some high schools have career planning and career, whatever it may be. Take one step. If you're a high school, middle school coach and you say, hey, coach, I don't have the resources you have. I don't have the budget you have. I get it. Well, to sit these players down and make these players do goal planning. Where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, and what I do with a lot of guys that play in the NFL or have opportunity to play in the NFL on this level is I say, okay, cool. The NFL isn't all year. You don't get paid all year. What are you going to do in the offseason? What are you going to do to continue to build your brand? And so I think it's stretching the mind of not only the student athlete to see themselves greater than a middle linebacker or for myself, a nose guard or, you know, a running back, whatever it may be. It's getting these guys to think about the next thing. I think, you know, personally, and I don't want to get too long with it. Personally, I would love to see little leagues because that's when most people acknowledge that a player is you can find real quickly, like there are late bloomers, but a lot of guys bloom really quick in little league. It would be awesome for little leagues to bring doctors to practice that have played football and say, hey man, I played football. You could be a doctor too. Bring a lawyer, you know, bring a politician, bring a principal, you know, bring whoever, start that process young, showing these young men that they could be more than the football player.
Y'all heard it right here, man. That was the director of player development, Edward Jones at Kansas University, the Jayhawks. And he's giving information that's going to be helpful to players day in and day out. And that's what we are about, life in football to the bone.
Yes, sir.
And I just want to thank him again for coming on. And to all the players out there, please know it's more than just a game of football. When you at that school, like he said, get in tune with the community, the county, the other people that have stuff going on around the school, campus police, even other things that you may not even thought of, and make sure you get in contact with these people and go through your people at the school too, because they got contact with alumni and people who are going to get you in place for other jobs and other things that you may not even thought of, maybe just doing an internship, and you may have a career after football. So I just want to thank Mr. Edward Jones again for coming on, and I'm going to leave y'all like I always leave y'all. Keep your head up and not down, or else you'll fall to the ground. This is the Life of Football podcast. Catch you next time.
Appreciate it.
This is a new day to live your life. This is a new day to try to get right. This is a new day to get on track. Yeah, that's life in football. This is a new day to live your life. This is a new day to try to get right. This is a new day to get on track. Yeah, that's life in football. It's life in football.